These should remain off until the trial ends. You should also have your video set to hide all non-video participants. This means that only people on the screen right now should be the advocates and myself. Would the attorneys for the parties please make their appearances, including second chairs?
Yes, Your Honor, from the plaintiff. Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Grace DeVico, counsel for the plaintiff, Ethel Marks. Today, I'm joined by my co-counsel, Ashlyn Tucker.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Tucker will be helping me with displaying exhibits as well as timing for today's trial. Your Honor, before the defense or after the defense has made their appearances, we have some preliminary matters to address.
Yes, we'll address those at that time. Counsel for the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. My name is Charlie Abowd, counsel for the defense in today's trial. I'm joined today by my co-counsel, Ms. Ashley Wong.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Ms. Wong will be assisting me with the screen sharing and other technical aspects of today's trial.
Good afternoon. Counsel, are there any preliminary matters?
Yes, Your Honor. First, we'd like to invoke Rule 603, which states that all witnesses be constructively sworn in.
That is the rule. Thank you.
We'd also like to note exhibit our stipulation 18 for the court. It reads that exhibit 10 was taken at 11:11 p.m. and posted to Jessica Marks's Instagram.
Is this stipulated?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, then it will be received.
And last, Your Honor, if at any time you can't see or hear me or my witness, we'd ask that you just let us know.
And that will be true for all the judges. Yes.
With that, the plaintiff is ready to proceed.
Defense ready to proceed?
Just one pretrial matter we'd like to address.
Yes.
Your Honor, when counsel screen shares exhibits that have not yet been entered into evidence, may we do so constructively outside the presence of the jury so that the witness may identify it?
Yes, that will be my ruling until it's admitted. Yes.
It's Your Honor.
Thank you.
After that, the defense is ready to proceed.
Opening statement for the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court. They pushed her over the edge. On March 24th of 2019, a car plummeted into a ravine in Malibu, killing a 19-year-old girl named Jessica Marks. But the people responsible for that crash, they weren't in the car. They were sitting comfortably at Sonny's rooftop bar, counting their cash from the night and preparing to go home. But members of the jury, make no mistake. It was the actions of those workers in that bar that night that led to Jessica's death. They kept giving her alcohol when she was obviously intoxicated. They failed to uphold their legal duty, and that is what caused the crash. They pushed her over the edge. Now, today we're here to hold the bar that served Jessica responsible for their actions. To do that, as the plaintiff, we've brought a claim of wrongful death against the defendant, Sonny's rooftop bar. This means that we have the burden to prove our evidence to be true, more likely than not. Now, we don't have to prove that Sonny Mehta knew Miss Marks was intoxicated. We have to prove that a reasonable person knew Miss Marks was intoxicated and then kept serving her, which was a substantial factor in her cause of death. Now, we'll meet that burden because the evidence will show that even though Jessica Marks was obviously intoxicated, they didn't stop her. They pushed her over the edge. First, you'll hear that the defendant saw the signs of obvious intoxication. You're going to hear about all the drinks that they served Miss Marks that night over a 3-hour period. They served her wine, hard seltzers, beers, shots. You'll hear that just moments later, minutes after leaving that bar, her blood alcohol content was found to be 0.16%. That's twice the legal limit for an adult in the state of California, and 16 times the legal limit for someone of Jessica's age. Members of the jury, you won't just have to hear about it. You're going to get a front row seat to see just how Jessica was acting that night. We're going to show you a video taken almost an hour before Jessica left the bar, where you'll see how obvious those signs of intoxication were. You'll hear that not even halfway through the night, the defendant saw these signs and said, "We need to cut this one off." But members of the jury, you'll learn that they never cut off Miss Marks that night. Even though she was obviously intoxicated, they pushed her further. They kept taking orders, continued making drinks, brought round after round to Jessica's table from 9 p.m. till near midnight. Sunny's bar had a responsibility to stop serving a obviously intoxicated minor. Instead, they pushed her over the edge. That's why at the end of this trial, we'll ask you to find Sunny's bar liable for the wrongful death of Jessica Marks. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Attorney for the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
May it please the court. Ms. DeVico, members of the jury. I've gotten pretty good at driving after a big night. Those were the words of Jessica Marks on March 24th of 2019, minutes before she got into her car and turned onto the Pacific Coast Highway. She had been drinking for hours that night, and her friend Morgan was begging her to stop, to not drive after she had been drinking, to get in an Uber. But Jessica refused. She knew the risks, but she chose to drive. And as a result of those tragic choices, Jessica Marks is dead. Members of the jury, we're here today because the estate of Jessica Marks has sued the establishment that served Jessica those drinks, Sunny's Rooftop Bar, for her death. And when they did that, they took on a burden of proof, of preponderance of the evidence, which means they have to prove their claim that is more likely than not. And what they need to prove to you today are two things: that Sunny served Jessica alcohol when she was displaying signs that would allow a reasonable person to conclude she was obviously intoxicated. And second, that the alcohol was a substantial factor in her death. Now, they won't be able to meet that burden today. So let's start by talking about obvious intoxication. You're going to get to hear today from Sunny Mehta himself. He's going to explain to you that as he served Jessica 8 to 10 times throughout that night, he never saw any of those classic signs that she was drunk. Never saw her slurring her words, never saw her throwing up, passing out, spilling any of her drinks. In fact, the evidence will show that Sunny watched Jessica walk down the stairs of the bar at the end of the night without any problems, without needing any assistance, without stumbling once. So not only will the plaintiff fail to prove she was obviously intoxicated, you'll also have to consider causation, whether Jessica's actions were a substantial factor in her death. Now, the plaintiff's going to call Morgan Levin to the stand today. And on cross-examination today, you're going to hear how Morgan Levin and Jessica Marks were planning to drink long before they got to that bar. Now, the plaintiff said in their opening statement that the bar pushed Jessica over the edge. But today you'll hear from Ms. Levin that no one pushed Jessica to drive to that bar when she knew she would be drinking. No one pushed her to order all of the drinks she chose to order at that bar. No one pushed her to drink them. And when she left that bar, no one was pushing her to drive. Certainly not the bar. and certainly not her friend Morgan Levin, because you'll hear that Morgan was telling her to stop, telling her it wouldn't be safe. But when they told her the risks, she refused. She said, "I've gotten pretty good at driving after a big night." And so she chose to take her keys, unlock her car, and drive home. She knew the risks, but she chose to drive. Members of the jury, the death of Jessica Marks is a tragedy, and it's human nature to look for someone or something to blame. But when you consider the facts and the evidence that have been presented to you today, you'll find that Sunny's Rooftop Bar is not responsible for her death. That's why I'll ask you that you find them not liable at the end of today's trial. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Will plaintiff please proceed with their case?
Yes, Your Honor. The plaintiff would like to call Morgan Levin to the stand. Good afternoon, Mr. Levin. Please introduce yourself to the members of the jury.
Hi, members of the jury. My name's Morgan. I'm 19 and I currently live in Southern California.
What do you do for a living?
I'm currently a student at UCLA. I don't want to be one of those people that makes going to UCLA their entire personality, but it was my greatest accomplishment.
Well, Mr. Levin, I need to ask you about why you're here today. Did you know Jessica Marks?
Jessica Marks was, she was my best friend. She's actually the reason I'm a bio major. Back in freshman year of high school, we were like this. I loved her with all my heart.
When was the last time you saw Miss Marks?
March 24th, 2019. It's a day I'll never forget.
Where were you on the night of March 24th?
At first, Jessica, she picked me up at around 6 o'clock. We went back to her Airbnb.
Where did you go then?
We were at the Airbnb for a few hours just listening to music. We went to Sunny's Rooftop Bar. It's a place in Malibu.
Well, I'd like to walk through the details of that night. What time did you arrive at Sunny's bar?
Around 9 o'clock. Yeah, that sounds about right. It was about a year ago, so my memory's a little fuzzy, but 9 o'clock sounds right.
Did you see any employees there?
I did. When we walked in, the owner of the bar, Sunny, he was the first person I saw. A couple minutes later, I saw the guy at the bar. He's a bartender. His name was Frank.
How many times would you say you interacted with Sunny, the server?
At least half a dozen times. I would say even more, maybe around 8 sounds accurate to me.
Well, who paid for the drinks that you got that night?
Oh, I paid for everything. I was treating Jessica because she was here out of town, so I wanted to be nice.
Your Honor, permission to display Exhibit 17?
Has counsel seen it previously?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, proceed.
Mr. Levin, do you recognize what's on the screen?
That's my receipt from the night we were at Sunny's. Looks accurate, yeah.
Would you say this is fair and accurate to the last time you saw it?
Yeah, like I just said, it looks exactly like the receipt I was handed on the night of March 24th, so they're identical.
The plaintiff moves to enter Exhibit 17 into evidence.
Any objection?
Without objection, Your Honor, we agree that this is a receipt from Sunny's Rooftop Bar.
It'll be received.
Now, Mr. Levin, can you tell us, out of all of these drinks, who drank what?
Well, I remember we bought a bottle of wine. I only had one glass of that. I'm pretty sure Jessica had the rest. I don't remember there being any left over. Then there were 3 White Claws. I think they're disgusting, quite honestly. that's Jessica's favorite drink, so she ordered all those. I remember we ordered the 2 IPAs. And
Your Honor, assumes facts not in evidence. May I be heard?
Yes, you may.
Your Honor, the demonstrative that opposing counsel has displayed on the screen lists drinks under Jessica Marks and Morgan Levin's names when the witness hasn't finished describing who he saw having which drinks that night. And so I would ask that opposing counsel elicit this testimony from the witness before displaying it on their demonstrative.
Counsel response.
Your Honor, this witness is testifying to which drinks they had that night. Whether or not these on the demonstrative are prompting him to say what he wants, Your Honor, he's testifying to what he knows, not to what's on this demonstrative.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Last response.
Yes, Your Honor. Before opposing counsel shows this demonstrative to the jury with drinks on it, I would ask that it would be reflective of what this witness has testified to first. And certainly I would object to this being a prompt for the witness to read off of throughout the course of today's trial.
My ruling will be that this is acceptable and your motion is overruled. We already have the receipt from the bar, which reflects exactly what is on this demonstrative piece. And so she can proceed and use that in this form. So proceed, counsel.
So, Mr. Levin, you said there were 2 IPAs. Who had those?
I had one of them. Jessica had the other. It was kind of weird to me because Jessica doesn't really like beer, but that's what she decided to drink. So.
What about the 2 green tea shots? Who had those?
Those I remember very specifically. Jessica was a caffeine addict. She loved green tea. So when she saw those on the menu, she said, let's get these. We split one each.
And then are there any drinks that aren't on that receipt that you remember you or Jessica having that night?
There was a mason jar that Jessica had at one point. It looked pretty hefty. She said it was a Captain and Coke.
All right. Well, did you ever think that Jessica had too much to drink throughout the night?
Yeah, I don't think I was ever so concerned for Jessica out of every single night. Like we used to party a lot together, I'll be honest, but that was the night that I was very concerned.
Well, why were you very concerned?
Well, because of how much she was drinking. It was drink after drink, and the server just kept coming. And then Jessica kept putting orders in. It was a lot.
We're now displaying Exhibit 10 constructively outside the view of the jury. Mr. Levin, do you recognize what's on the screen?
Yeah, I took this video actually around 11 o'clock. It's a video of Jessica at Sonny's bar before we were about to leave.
Have you seen this video all the way through before?
I mean, I'm the one who took the video, and also I had an interview with attorneys before today's trial, and they also showed me this video.
The plaintiff moves to enter Exhibit 10 into evidence.
Response.
Without objection, Your Honor, we agree that this is a video taken at Sonny's rooftop bar that night, and it was posted at 11:11.
It will be received.
Now, before we play this video, Mr. Levin, what time did you record it?
11 o'clock, yeah.
Ms. Tucker, you can play the video.
Hi everyone, Morgan and I are in Hollywood. We're in a bar. It's kind of like a Philly bar, except everything is really, really expensive. $10 for a seltzer. And everyone here wants to be a model or an actress. I'd like to thank the Academy. Mom and Dad, you've inspired me. Okay, well, go big or go home.
Now, did that video accurately depict how Jessica was acting that night?
Yeah, like I said, I'm sorry, it was kind of hard hearing her voice after like a year. Things were pretty rowdy that night.
And when did you two leave the bar?
Around 11:45, I called an Uber. I didn't feel safe getting in the car with Jessica.
And Mr. Levin, did any of the bartenders cut you or Jessica off from drinking that night?
Nope. Sonny Maida just kept on bringing us drink after drink, even after Jessica was having all these issues with just standing up. Like I said, drink after drink.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Cross,
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Levin.
Hello.
I want to talk to you about how you came to testify in today's trial. Isn't it true that after March 24th, the plaintiff threatened to sue you?
I remember something like that happening a while ago. It didn't take too long. The trial for this actually started a lot more faster than that.
Well, sir, what you remember happening is Jessica's mother, Ethel Marks, contacted you and said she blamed you for Jessica's death, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. And it was my fault. I should have stopped the bar owner.
But sir, after she threatened to sue you, she didn't end up doing it, did she?
Objection, Your Honor, under 402 relevance.
counsel,
Yes, Your Honor. The credibility of a witness is always relevant. And this line of questioning is going to show that Mr. Levin gave his testimony today after being threatened to be sued by the plaintiff. Certainly that's probative to his credibility in today's trial.
May I be heard, Your Honor?
yes, last word.
Your Honor, today we're here to sue, to find out if Sonny's bar is liable for Jessica's death, not Morgan Levin. The fact that Morgan Levin was threatened to be sued, it doesn't have any probative value in today's case. Your Honor, it doesn't go to his credibility. It's not probative. It's not relevant.
My ruling is that the objection will be overruled, that the evidence does go to his credibility in that he has an interest in giving the testimony that he gives.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Levin, isn't it true that you're testifying in court today after the plaintiff threatened to take you to court?
I'm testifying because that bar owner kept serving my friend drink after drink, and then she died.
That yes to my question, you're testifying after the plaintiff threatened to sue you.
Sure, I guess.
Now, I'd like to talk to you with that in mind about the choices Jessica made on March 24th. Now, if my co-counsel could display Exhibit 6 on the screen. Sir, you recognize this is a video that Jessica took of herself before you left for the bar.
Yeah, that's Jessica.
It's a fair and accurate video.
I mean, it looks like her, sure.
Defense moves Exhibit 6 into evidence.
Counsel,
No objection from the plaintiff, Your Honor.
it'll be received.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Wong, if we can go ahead and play that video. My apologies, Your Honor. It looks as though we're having some technical difficulties. We'll move
Yes,
on. Well, you remember seeing that video in your deposition, don't you?
Yeah, I remember I said earlier that they showed me a few things during an interview. This was one of the things they showed me.
In that video, Miss Marks said that she was going to go hard or go home. Isn't that right?
I mean, I think that's what I remember from the interview. Yeah, she said something like that during the video.
The fact of the matter is you and Miss Marks were planning on going to a bar and drinking that night, right?
Yeah, we wanted to spend a night on the town, West LA, you know.
But even though she planned to go hard, she said that she was going to go hard, she drove to that bar herself.
Well, I mean, yeah, there was no reason we couldn't drive.
Now, sir, I'd like to talk to you about Jessica's condition at that bar in front of Sunny. You never saw Jessica throw up in front of Sunny at that bar, did you?
I mean, no, Jessica wasn't throwing up.
Never saw her pass out in front of Sunny?
I think I saw her stumble a few times, but pass out? No.
Never saw her spill her drinks in front of Sunny, did you?
No, she didn't spill any drinks, to my recollection.
And it's correct, you mentioned she stumbled on the stairs of the bar at around 10 o'clock that night, right?
She did. It was a little more than a stumble. She basically fell down the entire flight, quite honestly.
You said that she fell down this entire flight of stairs, and you claimed that that's because she had been drinking, right?
Well, I mean, we were both drinking. That's the only reason I could think of.
11, isn't it true that after that point in time, Jessica used that staircase multiple times?
Yeah, that's correct.
Isn't it true that later that night she went down those stairs to talk to a bartender?
Yeah, around 10 o'clock. Yeah, she went to go talk to a bartender.
Now, you said this on direct, I actually wrote it down. You said you had never been more concerned for her. You didn't go with Jessica when she went down those stairs, did you?
No, I thought my friend would be okay going down a flight of stairs.
You thought she'd be okay going down the stairs, and as far as you could see, she didn't fall, did she?
I mean, what time are you talking about? I think I'm a little confused. I'm sorry.
Sorry, sir, when she went down those stairs to talk to the bartender, she didn't fall, did she?
No, not that time. She didn't fall.
And Jessica went down those stairs again when you were leaving the bar, didn't she?
That's correct.
Didn't fall down then, did she?
I don't think she fell down then, no.
Well, you were with her and she'd never needed your assistance as she was going down those stairs, did she?
I mean, in that moment, no. I mean, she didn't trip, fortunately.
That's a yes. She never needed your assistance when she was going down the stairs leaving the bar.
No, I didn't have to hold her up.
Now, I'd like to talk to you about the choices Jessica made when she left the bar that night. Now, no one was pressuring Jessica to drive home, right?
To my knowledge, no.
Well, what you did is you actually told her to get in an Uber, right?
Yeah, I ordered an Uber. That's how I wanted to get home.
But when you told Jessica to get in that Uber with you, she said, I've gotten pretty good at driving after a big night, didn't she?
Yeah. And then she just got in her car and left.
She chose to not get in that Uber.
Yeah, she just got in her car, like I said.
She chose to get in her car and drive into the highway.
That's what happened.
Thank you, Mr. Levin. Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you, counsel.
No redirect, Your Honor. May this witness be excused?
Yes. He's excused. Plaintiff rests.
Your Honor, before we rest, we'd like to read from Exhibit 22, the autopsy report. It's been pre-admitted into evidence.
Proceed.
Now, under external examination, it says that the subject is a normally developed 19-year-old white female. And under toxicology, it says that blood drawn at the scene of the accident contains 0.16 grams per 100 milliliter of blood, BAC. Your Honor, with that, the plaintiff rests.
Defense.
Yes, Your Honor. This time the defense calls Sunny Mehta to the witness stand. May I proceed?
Yes.
Please introduce yourself to the members of the jury.
Hi, I'm Sunny Meta.
What do you do for a living?
Well, I'm 27. I've worked a couple jobs. I worked in maintenance, real estate. I was even an exterminator, but my favorite was actually owning a bar.
When did you own a bar, sir?
Well, I got my bar in 2017. It's called Sunny's Rooftop Bar. It's right here in Malibu. We actually won Bar of the Year in 2018. You guys should come check it out before I sell it.
Now, sir, do you know why you're here today?
I do. Someone who ordered some drinks at my bar passed away. Jessica Marks.
Now, what day did that happen?
It was around a year and a half ago, March 24th, 2019.
Now, before I ask you about the events of March 24th, I want to talk to you about your training. What training did you have to go through in order to become a bar owner?
Oh, well, under California law, we have to take some courses, standard courses that help us learn how to spot obvious intoxication and just take care of our customers. And we have to renew this course every 3 years, so all of my employees have gone through the training.
And in that training, do you learn how to identify when someone's had too much to drink?
Of course we do, all of my employees do. We learn some of the biggest signs to spot obvious intoxication.
What are those signs that you like to look for?
Well, I think the biggest sign that we look for is somebody who's unresponsive, unconscious, throwing up, and then kind of like heavy stenches of alcohol, slurring their words, just signs of obvious intoxication.
Now, with that in mind, I want to talk to you about what you witnessed on March 24th. Were you working at the bar that day?
Yeah, I was. It was me and Frankfurt, our bartender. He mixes the drinks.
What time did Jessica Marks arrive at your bar that day?
I think she arrived around 9 p.m. She was there with a friend.
And now, could you briefly describe what the layout of your bar is like?
I'm sure there's a nice quaint little inside with some chairs, and then the bar is inside. And then there's also the rooftop space outside, which is, a level above. So there's a staircase that you have to walk up, and the rooftop space outside is really nice. You guys should come see it.
So when Jessica Marks got to your bar, where did she go?
Well, her and her friends, they went right upstairs to the rooftop.
Did you serve them drinks that night?
I did.
And how many times throughout the time that they were there were you at their table?
I want to say around 8 to 10 times, just, taking the orders and dropping off the drinks.
Now, Mr. Mehta, at any point in time, did you see Jessica having red eyes?
No, never.
Did you ever hear Jessica slurring her words?
No, every time she ordered, she spoke perfectly coherently and just placed her drinks.
Did you ever see her knock any of her drinks over at the table?
No, the table was pretty clean after, she never knocked over any drinks.
Now, Mr. Mehta, we've heard testimony today from Morgan Levin that Jessica fell down the entire staircase at your bar. Did that happen?
No, I never saw Jessica fall down the stairs. If I did, I would have been worried, but she walked completely fine.
Did you at any point see Jessica go down those stairs?
Yeah, I did. I saw her walk up and down them all night whenever she went inside, and she was completely fine. She never really needed any help and walked in a straight line.
Sir, did you see anyone assisting her as she was walking down those stairs?
No, her and her friend Morgan were just walking next to each other normally. It didn't seem like she needed any help.
Mr. Mehta, when you saw her leaving the bar that night, walking down the stairs, did she ever ask you for any assistance?
No, and if she did, I would have given it to her. I've, in the past, if anybody's ever needed help, I've called cabs, I've taken keys, just whatever they needed, but Jessica seemed fine. She never asked for my help.
Now, at any point that night, did you pressure Jessica to have the drinks she ordered at that bar?
No, I would never pressure somebody to drink. they were all her own choice.
Did you ever push Jessica to drive home that night?
No, I would never make somebody drive. That was her own choice also.
And when Jessica was leaving your bar that day, did she ever say anything about changing her choice to drive home?
Never. If I had known that he was going to choose to drive home like that, I would have done something, but it was her own choice.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. No further questions at this time.
Cross-examination?
Yes, proceed.
And before we get into the details of that night, I want to bring up something that you just said on direct examination. And now you said, if I'd known that she was going to do something like that, I would have stopped her. Now, at around 11 p.m. that night, you asked if someone was driving home. You asked if someone was driving home. That's correct, right?
Not exactly. I actually said, I hope this one's not driving.
And then after that, Jessica Marks said, no way, I'm driving, correct?
Yeah, she said no, I'm driving, but I couldn't tell if she was being completely serious. I had no way of knowing she was like, that was her choice to make.
Well, I'm not talking about her choices or if she was serious. I'm just talking about what she said. And what she said to you is no way, I'm driving, correct?
Yeah, she said something along those lines.
Now, Mr. Mehta, you've been trained to identify when someone's intoxicated.
Yeah, we have to get our certification renewed every 3 years. So all my employees are trained as well.
And on direct examination, you mentioned a lot of those signs. Now, the signs of intoxication can include vacant eyes, correct?
Yeah, or red and bloodshot eyes, kind of.
That's right. You said on direct they could smell like alcohol.
A heavy stench of alcohol, but those aren't really the biggest signs. I'd say the biggest ones were throwing up and kind of unresponsiveness and not really making sense.
Well, let's talk about March 24th and whether you observed Jessica Marks acting intoxicated. On direct examination, you said you saw 0 of the signs we just talked about from Miss Marks, correct?
I saw none of the signs that would lead me to believe she was obviously intoxicated.
Well, you estimate you visited her table from 8 to 10 times that night.
Yeah, just bringing her drinks and taking her order, what I do with all my customers.
That's right. And when she ordered drinks from you, you heard her voice.
Yeah, I did. She was ordering fine. Every time she placed an order for herself, she was talking fine.
Well, you even noticed when she was ordering that she had an accent, correct?
I mean, I guess she had a bit of one, but I mean, we're in California, never know what.
I'm now displaying, oh, sorry. I'm now displaying Exhibit 10. It's already in evidence. And I'm reading Exhibit our Stipulation 18, which states that this was recorded at 11:11 p.m. and posted to Ms. Marks's Instagram at 11:11 p.m. Now, you know what this is, right?
Oh, yeah, it's a video. They showed it to me before my deposition.
You also saw it earlier in trial.
Yeah, I did.
You agree that this video was taken at your bar.
Yep, it was taken at the rooftop.
You also agree that Jessica Marks sounds drunk in this video.
I mean, I'd say she was kind of slurring her words a bit, I guess, but that's not really how she was acting around me. No one ever showed me that video. I'd never seen it.
Mr. Mehta, what I'm asking is if in this video she sounds drunk, and that's correct.
In this video, yeah, she could have been maybe intoxicated, but she wasn't acting like how she was acting in that video when I was around her.
Okay, so maybe intoxicated. But if you were around when this video was taken, you would have been concerned for her, correct?
Oh, I would have definitely cut her off. I mean, I don't want any.
And when you saw Jessica and her friend leave the bar, you saw them walk down the stairs, correct?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I saw them walk down the stairs together. They were talking normally, and then they left.
You're telling us today that Miss Marks didn't look drunk at all?
No, she wasn't slurring her words. She didn't need any help walking down the stairs. She didn't look obviously intoxicated.
Well, you know that Jessica Marks's blood alcohol content was found to be 0.16% at her time of death.
Oh, I didn't know that at the time. Now I know that.
Well, you also know that that's twice the legal limit for an adult in the state of California.
Yeah, it is.
But Jessica Marks was just 19, correct?
She was 19, yes.
And I just want to make things clear for the court. On March 24th, 2019, you never stopped Jessica Marks from serving alcohol, from drinking alcohol that night, correct?
No, I mean, it was her choice to place the orders that she did. She wasn't acting obviously intoxicated, so I had no reason to cut her off.
That's a yes to my question. You never cut her off?
Yes, I didn't. It was her choice to place those orders.
Well, every time she asked for a drink, you served it to her, yes or no?
I mean, that's how going to my bar works. You place orders and then I bring them to the table and then you pay at the end of the night. So yes, I served her, if that's what you're asking.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
Briefly, Your Honor. Now, Mr. Mehta, on cross-examination, opposing counsel showed you Exhibit 10. Now, at any point in time, were you present when this video was filmed at the bar?
No, I wasn't. I didn't even know about the video, you know. Jessica or her friend, neither of them showed it to me. I found out about that video during the court case. I didn't even know anybody took it.
Sir, do you have any personal knowledge of the circumstances under which this video was recorded that night?
No, all I know is that her and her friend took it for Instagram. I think they might have been messing around some. I'm not too sure. All I know is that I was nowhere near when that video was taken.
And throughout the course of the night, when you would visit their table, did you ever see her displaying symptoms of obvious intoxication?
No, like I said, I didn't. She never passed out. She never threw up. She was not really slurring her words. She ordered all of her own drinks, so she seemed perfectly fine to me.
Mr. Mehta, what would you have done if Jessica hadn't been able to walk down the stairs of the bar as she was leaving without any help?
I would have taken her keys or called in a cab, you know. I've done it before, and I think that's a responsible thing to do, but she walked down the stairs fine, so I had no reason to.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. Your Honor, no further questions at this time.
And defense rests?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the defense rests our case in chief.
Thank you. Closing?
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court. They pushed her over the edge. Members of the jury, it's true. When 19-year-old Jessica Marks walked into Sunny's rooftop bar to drink, she was making an unwise decision. But the question you're being asked to answer today isn't whether Miss Marks was supposed to be in that bar. The question you're being asked to answer is, what was it that pushed her over the edge? Now, Miss Marks may have put herself in a dangerous position being in that bar, but it was the defendant that ignored her condition and continued serving her. They pushed her over the edge. That's why we brought a claim of wrongful death against the defendant, Sunny's rooftop bar. Today, we have the burden to prove the following elements: that while Jessica Marks was 19, the defendant saw the signs of obvious intoxication and continued serving Miss Marks, which was a substantial factor in her cause of death. Now, we've met that burden today because we've shown you that even though the signs were obvious, they didn't hold her back. Now, first, the signs were obvious. Morgan Levin told you that Jessica Marks was clearly intoxicated and that she had round after round of drinks. Members of the jury, that makes sense because you saw the list of drinks that Miss Marks was given that night. You learned that her BAC was 0.16%, which is 16 times the legal limit that Jessica Marks, her age, that she was supposed to have. Now, that brings us to the video, because you don't even have to rely on Morgan Levin's testimony, because you saw how Jessica was acting. Slurring her words, not making sense, dropping a can, having trouble picking it back up. Members of the jury, those are obvious signs of intoxication. But Sonny Mehta will have you believe that he saw none of those signs. He said today on direct examination that she ordered all her own drinks. She seemed perfectly fine. Well, obviously she ordered all of her own drinks because she wasn't thinking straight, because she was too drunk to make good choices. Now, on cross-examination today, Mr. Mehta had to admit when confronted with the facts of the video that Jessica Marks sounded drunk, that if he had been there when that video was recorded, he would have been concerned. He would have thought Jessica Marks was intoxicated. Well, members of the jury, we know he was there when that video was recorded. Or we know he was there when Jessica Marks was acting like that because the video was taken at 11 p.m. He testified today that he was at Jessica Marks's table up to 10 times before and after that video was taken. Now, when you go back to deliberate, you'll have the video. Take a look at the time signature, 37 seconds. Today, Mr. Mehta was stumbling over his words to tell you he only had quick interactions with Jessica Marks, 30 seconds to a minute. But we just learned that you can tell a lot in just 30 seconds, especially when you're trained to look for those signs. They were obvious. They saw them. Which brings us to the second fact that proves them liable. When they knew she was drunk, they kept serving her. Even after Miss Marks fell down the stairs and the defendant said, "We might need to cut this one off," they took her order again. They brought her more drinks. The defendant told you today it's their legal duty to cut off customers when they're drunk. They knew they should hold her back, but instead they pushed her over the edge. And the defense has tried to present evidence to you today, telling you that Jessica chose to drive, chose to drink, so she's responsible. But members of the jury, if they stop serving her, she drives home safe. That's this case. It's why the law exists. Drunk people don't make the best decisions. So bars are responsible for stopping serving them. And that's not when they're full down drunk, members of the jury. The law exists so that they never get to that point. The law says the bar is responsible, not some kid who was just trying to get drinks with her friend. And Jessica Marks was just 19, still in college with her whole life ahead of her. And if the defendant had done what they were trained to do, what the law required them to do, she might very well have lived that life. They pushed her over the edge. We ask you to find the defendant liable for the wrongful death of Jessica Marks.
Thank you, counsel. Attorney for the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury, may it please the court. The death of Jessica Marks is a tragedy. And in times of tragedy, it's human nature to look for someone or something to blame. But as difficult as it may be, members of the jury, it's your duty today to look past the emotion to look past the sympathy in today's case and consider only the facts and the evidence that the plaintiff has provided you with today. And when you do, you'll find that Sonny's rooftop bar was not responsible for Jessica Marks's death. Because she knew the risks, but she chose to drive. Now today, the plaintiff has brought this wrongful death action against the defendant, Sonny's rooftop bar. And they needed to prove to you today by a preponderance of the evidence, or more likely than not, two things. First, that Sonny Mehta served Jessica alcohol at a time when she was displaying symptoms that would allow a reasonable person to conclude she was obviously intoxicated, and that her consumption of that alcohol was a substantial factor in her death. But they failed to meet that burden today. So let's start by talking about obvious intoxication. The plaintiff today called to the stand Morgan Levin, the best friend of Jessica, who was with her every step of that night. But members of the jury, we learned something today about the reason why Morgan's testifying. We learned that prior to trial, prior to when Morgan Levin even submitted his first deposition, the plaintiff threatened him. They threatened to take him to court and sue him for his actions on March 24th, and only after that threat is he testifying in courts today. And so with that in mind, let's look at the story Morgan Levin told us. Morgan said when he got to that bar, Jessica was so drunk that he had never been more concerned for her health. He claims that she was so drunk, she fell down the stairs of the bar. But members of the jury, even though he claims he had never been more concerned, we learned today that Jessica was actually able to use the stairs after that. Not once, but 2 times after 10 o'clock that night. We learned today how Jessica was able to walk down those stairs when she was going to the bar. She was able to walk down the stairs when she was leaving. And in those 2 subsequent times, even though the plaintiff says Jessica got drunker and drunker, she was able to make it down without a problem. Morgan Levin certainly never needed to help her down those stairs. There's no evidence she stumbled. There's no evidence she had any trouble whatsoever. And that's the condition that Sonny Mehta saw Jessica in as she was leaving that bar, walking down the stairs without a problem. Because you heard today, that's what Sonny Mehta saw that night. You learned that Sonny Mehta didn't see the video exhibit 10 that they showed to you today. He wasn't present when this video was filmed. He wasn't shown it on that night. And therefore, under the law of today's case, this cannot be used to prove that she displayed symptoms of obvious intoxication. What Sonny did tell you he saw is that throughout the course of the 8 to 10 times throughout the night when Jessica was ordering, she was able to order. She was able to speak clearly. She wasn't knocking over her drinks. She wasn't throwing up. She wasn't passing out. She wasn't showing any outward obvious signs that she was drunk. Members of the jury, the plaintiff has failed in their burden to prove that Jessica Marks displayed these symptoms of obvious intoxication to Sonny. But members of the jury, even if you disagree, if you believe Morgan Levin's story, well, the judge will instruct you that we, the defense, have raised what is known as an affirmative defense. And that means we have our own burden of preponderance of the evidence, or more likely than not, to prove that Jessica Marks's death was caused by her own negligence. Now, you saw today Exhibit 6. Now, even before Jessica got to that bar, she was planning to drink. In her own words, she was going to go hard or go home. But despite her plans to go hard, Jessica never made arrangements to get to that bar. And while plaintiff counsel has talked about her being pushed over the edge, no one pushed Jessica to drive to the bar that day. No one pushed Jessica to order drinks at that bar. No one pushed her to drink them. And when she left, no one pushed her to drive. In fact, you heard today the sad story about Morgan Levin begging her to stop, telling her that she should get in an Uber, telling her she shouldn't drive, that it wouldn't be safe. Your Honor, it looks as though we were all kicked out of the meeting.
And I think we're back.
It looks
Is
like
everybody back?
The plaintiff is ready to proceed, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I believe I still had time remaining in my
Yes,
closing
you
argument.
do. I just want to make sure that the judges are still around, are back in so they can hear you.
I am
here.
still
I'm
here.
ready.
Okay, good. You did the time that we've been cut off will not obviously be part of your time, so please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. As I was saying, members of the jury, no one pushed Jessica to drink. No one pushed her to drive. And when Morgan Levin begged Jessica to not get in that car, she chose to ignore him. She chose not to get in that Uber. She chose to put her keys in that car, and she chose to drive. She knew the risks, but she chose to drive. That's why I'd like to ask you on behalf of the defense that you find Sonny's rooftop bar not liable for Jessica Marks's death. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel.
Rebuttal, Your Honor?
Yes.
In opposing counsel's closing, they said, and I quote, that we, the plaintiff, failed to prove Jessica showed signs of obvious intoxication. I think they've got it a little confused because, Your Honor, or members of the jury, our burden is to prove that a reasonable person would have thought that she was obviously intoxicated. Now, they also tried to tell you that she knew the risks, but she chose to drive. That Jessica made all the decisions that night. But it was the defendant who saw her condition and decided to keep serving her. Members of the jury, Sonny's bar knew the risks and decided to push her over the edge. You saw the video, you heard the testimony. It's clear. We ask you to find Sonny's bar liable for the wrongful death of Jessica Marks. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Judges should please complete their ballots, and when they do, click submit. Everyone should stay until everyone has submitted their ballots, and you'll have brief comments after that. So please, as judges, mute and stop the video. And when you're done doing your ballot, then you can come back online. All right.